Welcome back to Pan-African Morning. Thank you for staying with us. If you have just joined us, I'm your host, Audrey Shimada-Twala. We're taking you through all the news and updates. But this time in particular, we go to the Green Couch. We have a special guest, like I said, just before the break. Mr. Bongani Mkwananzi is the spokesperson for Zimbabwe community in South Africa. Now, this is a very important topic to have at this point in particular, and we thought we'd have them join us in studio so we can ventilate some of the issues that we're seeing happening within our communities and our social space. Bongani, very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the listeners.
Yes. For those of our viewers who are not familiar with the ZimSA community, perhaps could you give us a brief synopsis of what your objectives are?
The Zimbabwe community in South Africa is an organization that was formed. Initially, the issues of documentation were at the core of the organization, because a lot of Zimbabweans were not documented. There was a period in time where there were a lot of people who held South African IDs, authentic South African IDs, but perhaps not genuine, because people would not have actually been born in South Africa. And because the Department of Home Affairs had, I think, discovered this, a lot of people had a challenge where they were now required to prove the authenticity of these IDs. And our chairman, Comrade Ngabuto Mapena, participated a lot in actually sorting out that situation. In 2010, there was a dispensation program by the Department of Home Affairs where they offered an amnesty to say if you held a document that you had fraudulently got, you surrender it, you'll get a work permit for 4 years.
Right.
So therefore, after the organization, there's been a lot of things that the organization has done, but it became important now that we broaden our scope, because we realized that the Zimbabwean community had a lot of issues that it faced that needed somebody to stand up. So we had to form a committee. The committees that were formed initially were meant for documentation, but then as we progressed, we realized no, we had to expand our scope, and we decided then to have about 3 departments: a skills, education and skills department. We decided to have an economic and business development department, and we decided to have a social and humanitarian department. We felt that this would encompass most of the issues that faced the Zimbabweans in our community.
I mean, the past couple of days, I mean, this has been a growing call now that foreigners are stealing jobs of locals. I'm sure you're aware of that narrative, whether it's factual or not, is something that is debatable. I mean, people have their own lived experiences, and a lot of that is being accusations. The fingers are being pointed to Zimbabweans to say not only are they, there's quite involved in issues of crime because they don't have a lot of opportunities and they're not documented, so they're not able to get into a legal, job market to be able to look for a job, and so they resort to that, or that they're stealing the locals' jobs. In terms of a skill set, I know that at this point you can only get a work permit if you have a critical skill in South Africa, outside of the Zimbabwe special permit dispensation, which I'm sure is coming to an end very soon. Are those some of the issues that you're addressing to encourage social cohesion between locals and foreigners?
These are some of the issues. As much as the other issues may be a stereotype, in states perhaps it is not as bad as people want to make it seem. I'm not refusing and negating the feeling of the South African. The economy is not very well currently, even in South Africa. Globally, we have economic issues. So if you are a South African and you don't have a job, and there is a lot of foreigners that occupies a certain job, you would feel perhaps if they were not there, I would have that job. We are addressing those sort of issues. We have said, look, there is a connotation. In general, it is perceived that Zimbabweans have skills. They have a literacy level that is high, they have qualifications. It is actually so in many sectors that you would find Zimbabweans actually do have a lot of qualifications and etc. etc. But we then thought, okay, look, if the host community feels you are taking our jobs, the migrant community, particularly Zimbabweans, feels, oh, well, we have the skills. It becomes a bit of a confrontation. What if we used this dilemma to solve actually a broader issue? We say, Zimbabweans, if you have skills, share it with the local community and foster the social cohesion by skilling together. So despite some of Zimbabweans might not have skills, or might have skills that are coming to sort of an extinction. Skills are developing into a fourth industrial revolution type of skills, where some of the skills are becoming redundant. So you have a degree, you have something, but perhaps in the future it might not be too relevant. We say, as the Zimbabwe community, we are going to have a situation where we want to develop skills, we want to share skills. So you currently you're a plumber. You feel you drive around, you fix switch or whatever. You are a motor mechanic, for instance. You can fix a starter. You can disassemble an engine. Why don't you share that skill with the host and teach them how to dismantle this engine and put it together, and give a positive impact into the community that is currently giving you sanctuary from economic and political challenges back at home?
Yes. I mean, just a few days ago, you were kind enough to invite not only us, but, you know, a lot of people from different sectors to your year-end party, a very successful one at that. Quite a bit of influential people that took part in that event. Of course, it wasn't only just fun and fair. You managed to actually raise money for the needy, over 145,000 rand in a few minutes. There were quite deep pockets there, obviously. And you did that for the needy, for the communities here in South Africa. I think the Deputy SG for the ANC was there. I understand Jesse Duarte. What do you make of the speech that she made?
Well, she was very frank with us and the challenges that South Africa faces, and she acknowledged that while we had managed to gather people around into one room, because we had invited various political parties, community organizations, and in general people who are in Zimbabwe considered. So we tried to have a cohesive set of people to in acknowledging what we did. She did mention that South Africa cannot negate the challenges that it is facing currently, economic challenges, where she mentioned literally that in a situation where 10 out of 10 of your children, if 7 are finding themselves with an issue where they don't have jobs, it becomes a challenge. And she mentioned about the social net South Africa had created, and now that the economy is not doing so well, the tax base is becoming lower and lower, it cannot be sustainable. So we actually appreciate the frankness of the presentation she gave, that we actually need to actually manage to do this very inclusion where we gather together back at home. We should actually manage to do this at home in as much as we can do it here.
Yes, and just looking at the root of the problem, Bongani, you know, the issue in Zimbabwe that has really made people leave their homes and come to South Africa, and you know that's why we have all these problems of xenophobia that people have been complaining about. What efforts are you also putting into place, if any, you know, on the other side of Limpopo, to make sure that things are sorted out there, so that Zimbabweans can have a safe place where they can live a better life? I don't know if that is within the scope of what you do as ZimCommunitySA community.
One of the important things about the skills development initiative is not only to say, it would feel like we are here to stay. No.
Yes.
It is also to prepare ourselves to return home. In as much as there was a skills drain out of the country, we need to have that skills going back to the country, back to Zimbabwe. So this is part of the thinking, to say, look, as you are here as Zimbabweans, skill set yourself to return, have a mentality that you are returning home, and what is it that you can have back at home. So there's a general concept where in Africa I've seen a lot of mentality where people feel on an FDI, foreign direct investment mentality. But the diaspora community, if it were to syndicate, it actually holds the capital to actually resuscitate most of the economies in Africa. Zimbabweans are spread globally. Our vision at the end would be to see a Zimbabwe community in the UK, Zimbabwe community in the USA, Zimbabwe community in Canada, etc. Having the mentality to say we are going to syndicate ourselves to have a mentality to fund our own circumstances back at home. The capacity is there. Zikhona izitokfela. You understand? Yes. You have that mentality. We are grouping together. If we were to have that unison mentality, and wherever we are, we foster social cohesion where we are not frictional with the host. We try to have a positive impact. The Zimbabwe community in South Africa held an anti-crime summit in Hillbrow just before lockdown. Okay. We had programs where we were going to go to Dispute, do a roadshow. We have actually created crime policing forums, groups where they are grouping together with the local crime policing forums. We have a good relationship with the SAPS. We are anti-crime. Zimbabweans
yes, I've actually seen those videos on your Twitter
handle. We are anti-crime. There is a small segment, very minute, of Zimbabweans who would be doing crime. If you look at statistics properly in courts, etc., it's not a large group. Yes, it's easy to connotate this crime to the migrant community, particularly Zimbabweans. We are the largest migrant group in South Africa. It's very easy to then say Zimbabweans are doing this and that, but it's a very small portion of our people. A lot of our people are very hardworking. They actually are peaceful. They are diligent, so we will not be represented by criminals. We will be represented by the solid people of stature in our society who have skills that they want to share with the local host, who are anti-crime, who want to have a better life, who actually want to return back home.
Yes. Yeah. In the number of people that you've been engaging as ZimSA community in the different sectors that you've been talking to people, trying to make sure that your initiatives, that, you know, raising awareness really to foster social cohesion amongst the other initiatives that you do, how well received do you think you've been? How well received have you been? Let me just put it that way.
By our community. Yeah, look, I would say it's a lot
not
of...
just your community, but just even the host country here in South Africa. Because I remember, I think the SG, in part of his, Deputy SG, part of his speech was, spoke about, you know, welcoming, you know, Africans from all over the country and, you know, having them come in and, of course, within the legal framework of the immigration laws.
Currently, the sentiment, and there's been a bit of a sentiment of anti-foreigner mentality. In general, if you look within the leadership of most of the organizations, you would find we are perceived to be doing good. I would be lying if I were to speak for the community in general, because we have not done any outreach to the community in that fashion. This is part of the idea now to say, look, if we are to have a socially cohesive society with inclusion, we will need to reach out to the community. So we will yet to see how this will be received. We are hoping the community realizes that we are here to actually become part of the community. And not to dwell in the community forever, really. We want to go back home. Honestly, the circumstances that we are in, we are away from home. Everyone gets homesick at some point. So within most of the leadership structures in South Africa, we are well received. For instance, you would realize that COSATU actually intervened within most of their unions when UIF was becoming a bit of a challenge for migrants. Initially, it was now becoming a challenge, but they had a mentality to say, look, a worker is a worker. They were contributing to the UIF. Why are they not being paid out? So you would see a sense they represent the community. We would feel that is the view of the community.
Yes,
as well.
of course. We'll have to leave it there, but a very important conversation that we had, and a conversation that needs to be had over and over and over again, and of course, especially with the ZimSA community, and would like to continue following your work to find out really, you know, all these initiatives that you're embarking on as you then perhaps get into the community as well on grassroots levels, because I think that's where some of these sentiments emanate from and change the perspective that we see coming from there. Mr. Bongani Mkwananzi, ZimSA community spokesperson, speaking to us here on Pan-African Morning. We hope you have a great weekend, sir.
Thank you very much.
And well, that was our guest on the green couch. Now we'll have a quick recap of our headlines. Of course, if you want to get a hold of all the work that they do, I'm sure they're on Facebook, and their website is also there. They're on Twitter, ZimSA Community. You'll be able to find them there, and if you want to be a part of the initiative as well. For now, we'll have a quick recap of our headlines before we close. Former Bosasa COO Agritsi, a no-show in the 1.8 billion rand fraud and corruption case. And there's a possibility of stricter measures at the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro as COVID-19 cases begin to rise, and President Cyril Ramaphosa to face his very first motion of no confidence. And amid pandemic, the World Health Organization is pushing for more physical activity, so you need to get up and start exercising. Those are some of our headlines on this Friday. It's a wrap from myself, Audrey Shimanda Twala, and the amazing team behind the scenes that make it possible for us to bring you this show every Monday to Friday from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock a.m. And we hope you have a fantastic weekend. We're back on Monday, same time, same place. From myself, remember to be kind to one another. And of course, to stay tuned to Galaxy Universal Network as we have more programming, news and updates. Harmony Mbele is up next in the next 30 minutes.